Hello and welcome to our 3327 presentation. Today I am going to show you a demo project we built to better understand the Cosmos ecosystem, more so in the developer experience rather than the whole ecosystem. So the agenda for today is we will go through the refresher on what Cosmos is, its approach, organization, the whole idea, why it came into existence. We will go over the demo project, which is a simplified Twitter clone, and some specifics on how it was made and how it differs from other ecosystems. So, long story short, Cosmos promotes itself as an internet of blockchains. What does it mean? It means that you have multiple parallel blockchains, which are sovereign in a sense that each chain has its own set of validators and custom made in a sense that Cosmos is made of layers, application consensus networking layer, and application layer is defined by the team that is behind the chain. So it can be EVM, but it doesn't have to, and it can be almost arbitrary how you define that layer. From the developer point of view, most of the changes are done in the application layer. Application layer consists out of these modules, which are like these blocks that contain with a single purpose in mind. For example, the idea behind Cosmos is that you have predefined modules that are with the logic that is common across chains. For example, each chain has its own token, and rather than starting from scratch and defining your own logic, you can introduce a bank module which would take care of the balances of the users, the addresses, and how they are transferred and update the balances. So a Cosmos transaction consists out of these messages, which are routed to the corresponding module. For example, if I want to transfer some tokens, I would take the transaction, put a message about the transfer, say it gets routed to the bank module, and it will get processed by the bank module. Of course, if I have the tokens and if the validation logic doesn't fail. So each of the messages has its own handler. When the message comes, it gets routed, as I said, and handlers update the chain state. And another concept that is worth mentioning is queries. Queries are there to just retrieve the state. For example, something like a view function in the EVM ecosystem, it doesn't alter the chain, but for the user, you need to display some useful information. If I'm going too fast, feel free to interrupt me and ask questions. For the simple project, as I said, it's a Twitter clone. We will now show the demo, what is possible with it. So essentially, you make a post with the title and the post body, And you publish it, which initiates a transaction. You approve the transaction from your wallet. It gets published and it gets written to the chain. We will go later about what gets written and the way how you store and you retrieve the information. But next, you can comment on the post. So now you need to associate each comment with the post, but also to not lose track of um, individual posts, in the sense that you want to retrieve the post with all of its comments, but you want separately all the comments. And also you publish a comment, approve the transaction, it gets updated and written to the chain, and then the query is made to get back the comment and to display to the user. Also, with the like, it's the same procedure. You need a transaction, it gets written, and the front end queries the chain's state. Are there any questions up till now? Okay, let's move further. As I said, because we need to store information about what happened, each post, comment, and like are the actions that correspond to messages. Each information or the data is stored separately. Not to get too much into specifics, but there are no mappings in Cosmos. You can only you work based on arrays, and you iterate over an array until you get what you need. And also validation logic, data organization requires thought. And what is important is how you query information, because you want to process the transaction fast, update the state, but you also want to retrieve the information back back from the chain. So in the example, as I said, you want to post to have all of its comments, and each comment has all of its likes, and each post has its likes as well. And you, all of that information is dispersed across the keeper or the store value, and you want to combine it efficiently such that user does not wait too much for that information, and that you do not take away the resources from the chain. Now for the simple overview of the code, we will take the example of a post, how the post is made. As you can see in this, above this code is the location of the file where it's stored. For the create post, we obviously need the creator, which is the address of the person that is making the post. We need the title, body, and you can also introduce more fields if you want. That is the message that we are creating. Now we need to create a handler for that message. As you can see, we have a switch that, based on the message type, will call the message server create post. And that is here on the right side. We call that handler. It gets run, and here K is the keeper that that works with the store with the chain state, and we call append post, which we'll see on the next slide, that just takes the array, computes how it needs to get stored, appends the value, and basically that's what it does. And on the right side, we have this keeper post go get post that is called, but when we query some information about the post, we also call the store, make a call how the query should be processed, and we give a response to the user that was made. What are some key takeaways? Obviously, you need to think of how data is organized, what you need to query, and prioritize what information do you need sooner rather than later. Also, you want to map actions to messages. You can wrap multiple messages inside a single transaction. So the user experience also needs to be taken into account. Fields of the messages, what information gets sent to the chain. Message handlers are what logic gets executed when the message is received, and the validation logic, whether you are authorized to, for example, transfer tokens if you have corresponding balance larger than the amount you're transferring. And basically that's it. The front end needs a way to communicate with the backend, that is the chain, and that is the it's not a smooth dev experience to because in EVM-based systems you have the ABI, which is a JSON, and you have a library that will take the JSON and just provide you with the interface how to call functions. This you need to do by yourself, and there are multiple steps which made the process more difficult. And also the queries are just exposed API routes. That's all. If there are questions now will be the perfect time.
Thank you, Milos, for the presentation.
You're welcome. Overall, it's not bad experience developing on Cosmos, but it largely differs from the EVM and smart contract development, deployment, etc. Also, the motivation why you should have your own chain is a little questionable. You can communicate with the chains, other chains, but you're dependent on something else. So I don't know, guys, if you want to talk about more the Cosmos architecture.
I'm just thinking, we were talking yesterday as well. I'm just thinking about possible, I would say, best use cases for Cosmos. You know, again, I don't know if you identified some, but this is what I'm thinking about. Like, what is the situation in which we would say, well, the Cosmos is the perfect solution for this?
Well, in my opinion, the whole idea behind Cosmos is that you have a single application on a chain, which does not compete over the resources like you have on the Ethereum, which transactions are, there are multiple applications. So in my opinion, it's like you want to handle the processing of heavy processing on your separate chain, But in extreme cases, you want to go on the other chains. That is you want to interaction with other chains. Like there's this project Osmosis, which is a DEX that on Cosmos that takes the coins from other chains and has its own separate chain, does all the matching of the orders, etc. And then if you want to cash out, you go back to the other chain.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Milos, do you have any data on transaction throughput? Wow, what is the TPS on those chains?
Well, like theoretically, I think it's 10,000 transactions per second, but that's just in theory. I read some research paper that it goes down to 4,000 transactions per second, but also the number of validators is low. So I'm not really sure. There's this in Cosmos, you have this economic center, which is the Cosmos Hub, and that is like the main chain. And you can have your own chain and maybe tweak the parameters of that chain. Like maybe on the separate chain, you really can go 10,000 transactions per second, but it's like you have 10 validators, which is not like decentralized nor good for the user. But for the Cosmos Hub, I think it's even lower than 4,000 transactions per second. Because there are like 150 validators on that chain.
This is a Tendermint consensus, right?
Yeah, the consensus in networking is the Tendermint. Tendermint, I think it's called Tendermint BFT or Tendermint Core.
You said that separate blockchains don't compete for resources between each other. So I'm curious, when you spin up a different blockchain, do you need to bring your own validators, or are you using the same one as, say, Cosmos Hub?
Currently, you need to spin up your own validators.
Okay.
There are some initiatives to have validators validate multiple chains, but that is not functional yet.
Great, thanks.
The same incentive is, by the way, on Polygon POS. It's going to be changed in the next 12 months. So the idea is for all current validators of the mainnet should validate all the sub-projects inside the Polygon ecosystem. So, for example, you will have the same set of validators validating Supernets, Hermes, Avail, Nightfall, etc. Every other project that joins the Polygon ecosystem. So this is something that I see Avalanche is doing also, as well as Cosmos.
Yeah,
but no one has done it yet.
Yeah, I mean, when you want to have your own chain, like you need infrastructure, so it completely makes sense to for validators to validate multiple chains.
Milos, what do you feel like? What should the future improvements for Cosmos look like in the future?
Well, I think there are these concepts of interchain security, which we talked about, one chain having control of the other. But there are these interchain accounts which are in development and you want to initiate a transaction on one chain that will get do something on the other chain. So I think that's very good from the user experience, because you don't want to, in a sense, you really sometimes do not need to know on which chain you are making transactions from the user experience sometimes. So I would say UX.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, guys, if there are no more questions, thank you very much for your participation in this presentation. Thank you, Milos, for presenting. See you next time. Have a nice weekend. Bye, everybody.
See you guys.
Bye.
Thank you, Milos. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you. Bye.
you.